So easy to die here, squashed under a landslide of fat and blood. Quick, quick, ship in a bottle, harp strings. Move your fingers around, snag the thing, and give a little tug. Four-masted schooner, pure white note, eye sliding open, daystar, walnut, daisy. On the second floor of the Crockett Home for the Aged, in the most coveted of the second floor bedrooms, its windows facing the backyard gardens and the veranda of the Locust Inn next door, sat Helen Zeebrugge, 92 years old. She was a large-boned and handsome woman whose great head of wild white hair had been momentarily tamed by a set of earphones. "So extraordinary, my dear, so odd," said the voice in Helen's ears. And Helen laughed, just as she had the first time she read the Forsyte Saga over 60 years ago, at the thought of Aunt Hester trying to shoo Bosiny's hat off the hall chair because she thought it was a cat. Poor Bosiny, not dead yet, and still full of that boundless erotic energy that made men so attractive to women, even old ones like herself, who would no more dream of succumbing to it than going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. It certainly formed the explanation behind her son Pete's many marriages, though he was nowhere near so rash as Bosiny. How many was it now? 4? Helen had lost count after Amy, the massage therapist. Of course, Pete was a banker and Bosiny was an artist. Like an artist, concurred the voice in Helen's ears, forever seeking to discover the significant trifle which embodies the whole character of a scene or place or person. So these unconscious artists, the Forsytes, had fastened by intuition on this hat. Helen, tentative and bold, and as usual without knocking, Marjorie Mason had once again managed to slip into Helen's room like she was made of ectoplasm. You could only pretend you hadn't noticed Marjorie for just so long before she stood right in front of you, visibly sensitive to the fact that you were visually impaired. Even if you were blind as a bat, you'd know she was there because she stood way too close and spit on you when she talked. Helen shook her head and pointed to her earphones, all to no avail. Marjorie seemed to be crying, rummaging in the sleeve of her apricot-colored cardigan for one of those unsanitary floral hankies she kept hidden away up there, rummaging and sniffing, sniffing and rummaging. Helen wanted to take her by the shoulders and shake her until every single distasteful thing she'd hidden on her person throughout the course of a long, deceitful life came fluttering to the floor. But instead, she removed the earphones and tossed them on her bed, only remembering to switch off the tape when she heard the reader's fruity British baritone continue to buzz away like a bee on the white candlewick bedspread. "Don't be mad," Marjorie said, literally wringing her hands. "What makes you think I'm mad?" Helen replied. "Don't you mean angry?" "Mrs. Crockett," Marjorie whispered. She looked at the door. It was late Saturday afternoon, almost supper time. Beauty parlor day, which would explain why Marjorie's hair seemed to have turned the same shade of apricot as her sweater. A nice enough color for a sweater, but on an old woman's head. Sometimes Helen thought she'd rather be moldering in the grave than having to witness these final pitiful gasps of female vanity. Lipstick, jewelry, the way the French-Canadian woman's eyelashes were glued on crooked. Not to mention Boo Makepeace's false teeth. "What about Crockett?" asked Helen. "She said George isn't allowed to come here anymore." George was Marjorie's son, a hapless but amiable fellow who taught 6th grade at Varennes Elementary. A confirmed bachelor, as Marjorie would explain, whenever one of the other Crockett ladies dredged up a potential girlfriend for him from out of her vast pool of unmarried relatives, though any fool could see George was gay as a box of birds. "George," Helen said. It was hard enough to imagine George doing anything, let alone something so bad Crockett wouldn't let him through the door. Marjorie mimed turning a key between her lips before girlishly tossing it over her shoulder. Too many people in the hall, Marjorie explained. Too many ears. The smell of something roast to within an inch of its life drifted up the elevator shaft, along with the smell of a boiled member of the Crucifer family. Hold it, yelled the new woman, the one who could never bear to wait for anything because she was originally from New Jersey. The hallway filled with the sound of shuffling feet, of the rubber tips of walkers, three-pronged canes. You couldn't stay at the Crockett home if you weren't able to ambulate or if you were incontinent, though if, like the woman from New Jersey, you couldn't bear to stop for anything, death included, you could be sure death would kindly stop for you, as he had only last week for poor Anita Summers, screaming her head off up there on the 3rd floor before the horses arrived with their heads towards eternity. Helen, on the other hand, was in no hurry to get to the dining room. She leaned forward and retrieved the earphones, switching the machine back on. "Come now," the fruity baritone was inquiring. "Should I have paid that visit in that hat? No, it would never have come into my head." So comfortable, Helen's English lounge chair, so beautiful, the pink light of the setting sun. What indeed was this young man who, in becoming engaged to June, old Jolyon's acknowledged heiress, had done so well for himself? Meanwhile, downstairs, the ladies were settling into their assigned seats. They'd get their new seat assignments Monday, but until then, Helen was stuck at a table with crooked eyelashes, who had once known how to speak English, but refused to speak anything these days but French, and Jane Shippey, who ate like a pig, and Selena Blum, who felt compelled to relate the story of her husband's suicide at every meal. Gun, mouth, brand new Oldsmobile. Never had there been so full an assembly, for mysteriously united in spite of all their differences, Jolyon's family had taken arms against a common peril. Like cattle when a dog comes into the field, they stood head to head and shoulder to shoulder, prepared to run upon and trample the invader to death. Group mentality, you might as well head straight to the slaughterhouse as to the dining room. At least mad cow disease had provided a little change of pace. No more shepherd's pie, no more American chop suey. Helen hated groups as much as she hated meat. She had been a vegetarian ever since the day she watched her Ama's handsome, slant-eyed son kill a chicken by cracking its neck between his teeth. This was the sort of thing that happened if you had missionaries for parents and spent your formative years in Japan. Though maybe it wasn't vegetables she longed for, so much as some fascinating tidbit, the sort of thing the world would drop in your lap from time to time if you were lucky, which is to say, not stuck sitting at a table with Gargantua and the Ancient Mariner. Maybe when you were 92 years old, what you really wanted was what Helen's young friend Billy referred to as a scoop, what the little girl with the bad eyesight who sometimes came to read to her called dish. Police log, Saturday, May 17th, 1:59 a.m., noise disturbance on Bank Street. 2:45 a.m., trash dumped in dumpster. 4:06 a.m., domestic complaint at French Hill residence. 8:55 a.m., wandering dog brought to Humane Society. 9:15 a.m., drug activity on Route 3. 10:30 a.m., threatening phone call reported at Terrace Street residence. 12:40 p.m., subject sold car without brother's consent. 2:10 p.m., vandalism complaint on Perry Street, vehicles egged. 3:06 p.m., juveniles riding wheelchairs in roadway on Bank Street. 3:10 p.m., protesters blocking traffic at Summer Street Rotary. 4:03 p.m., Subject unconscious on town beach. 4:12 p.m.